Hello everyone, my name is Jawkins. In this video I want to talk about the different ways that I've learned to clip with ash. That way just getting out of bounds and glitch hunting is a little bit easier for everybody else. So right now there's 3 different ways of doing it, and without further ado, let's get started. So here we are at our first location. This is also the easiest kind of clips that we can do with ash. So in this, we're just using a blaze to push Ash's hitbox backwards out of bounds. So you see this chest right here, how it's close against this hill. So if we get into Ash right here, and we face towards this, when we blaze, you'll notice Ash's hitbox goes out of bounds here. And Major Ruin's icon comes up to where we can choose him, and so does Kameo's. So when we press one of them, it will shoot us downwards out of bounds onto this invisible ground here. Now these invisible grounds vary based on where you're at, and it usually comes down to what the rest of the surrounding area is, what the lowest area in that place is. So I think this invisible ground right here is what these huts are kind of sitting on right here. And you can see you can do a lot of things down here. There's the water temple right here, so if you walk that way and went into the actual loading trigger, you'd be able to get in there. And then there's also ones that are, the loading triggers are a little bit further up, but when we're in this state like this, what we can do is we can come over, let's see, not this one, let's go to this one over here. So what we can do in these kind of situations here, we can find this like a nice out of bounds area that still has this water attached to it. And what we can do here is, if we do it just right, let's see if I can do this. Sometimes it takes a minute. There it goes. So you'll be able to get that swimming animation there and still be able to move around. Unfortunately there I went back inbounds, but doing that, you're able to basically swim around everywhere around in here up to the water level. And using deep blue, you can dive down too. So that's going to take me to my next area around here for the second way of clipping with ash. Before we move on to showing what it looks like to swim out of bounds with deep blue, I wanted to show a couple more examples of what I was talking about with blazing against something to push your hitbox backwards. So here's another example right here. So this tree right here is right next to this slope. So if we get with ash right here, we're able to get behind this tree here. And then you'll notice that he'll slowly be able to start going out of bounds here. And one thing I kind of do is, if you rock back and forth like that, you're able to get ash further and further back behind these kind of things. And then you take from another side if you need to. Kind of like that kind of motion there. So now we're in clipping position here, and you see Major Ruin's icon comes up, and once we do it, we'll be able to fall down right here. Now the reason why you can walk on this area here, this black texture here, is because I believe this has something to do with the lava in this area. So you have to be really careful while you're going across here too, is because all that lava up there is still tangible all the way down here. But you can follow this all the way over to Thorns Pass over there and get out of bounds and into Thorns Pass. And to go along with having something that you can push up against and get out of bounds, so here's a torch right here with a slope behind it. Now with torches, the hitbox for them are kind of slim, so it's harder to actually stay on top of them. But using other objects such as the horse here, or like I'll show an example here in a moment, we're able to get behind these and still get into a position where we can clip. As you can see here, here's Major Ruin's icon coming up. And once we do, here's another way of getting down here to this area. Now for these objects that you can use, come on Arcos. So with these objects that you can use to clip out of bounds with, so anything that's kind of tangible, like these work really good because of how big they are. I'm pretty sure those noise fruits, whatever these things are called, work as well, but their hitbox is a lot, pretty small and thin. So with these, what we want to do is just kind of put them in an area to keep you from sliding out. And also, if you hover, it will let you get into places that you can't really transform into ash a lot better. So transforming into ash here, doing this, push you into a clipping state like this. So now you can get out of bounds over here. So this is out of bounds and over swamp. And then also there's a nice green texture above here if you just hop up once. So after that, the next thing that we're going to talk about is proxy clipping. With proxy clipping, it's a lot more difficult, and it's a lot harder to do unless you know exactly the angles and the position that you're in to do it. So I'll do one of the easier examples here, and that's how to get into over swamp early as soon as you have ash. Okay, so in this example of proxy clipping, we're going to use this hut right here to get underneath this area right here. So what proxy clipping is, I think Crafty has a nice video on like her going out of bounds by Thorns Pass, where she'll just kind of wiggle her way back and forth across an edge with Kameo, and then it'll shoot her downwards. So it's kind of the same thing with ash, and we're kind of looking for like 90-degree invisible walls to get just precisely where our head is sticking into the parallel wall with us, and it will shoot us downwards, and you'll start noticing the effects. And I'll show you an example here how it will shoot you outwards or shoot you downwards sometimes. So let's see if I can do this within a couple of tries. These are a little bit harder. This one has a pretty good visual cue. You're kind of wanting to be like outwards facing here, and then you have your backwards talon kind of between the two seams. So let's see if I can get this out of the way and show this a little bit better. So you see how like I was shot backwards there and kind of downwards. So if you do that enough times, like yeah, there we go. So that one was actually a little bit faster than what it usually is. So it shoots you outwards and backwards, and sometimes with the collision of other things around, it'll just shoot you out of bounds like that. And especially in areas like this where you have a water source that you can land inside of, well, you're able to switch into deep blue and then go out of bounds from there. With proxy clipping, it's a lot harder to find uses for them, because the fact is when you clip like that, it shoots you so fast downwards that it puts you into a falling animation. And when you're in a falling animation, you can't really jump or move, do anything else like that. That's why you need like a water source underneath you to actually land into. That way you can switch into deep blue and get fully out of bounds in that sense. I found a couple places where you can do proxy clipping and land on an invisible floor underneath you. It just really depends on what the geometry of the map actually is. And I'll try to show an example in the Forest Temple with ash. So let's go do that. Alright, so here we are at the beginning of the Forest Temple. Now with proxy clipping, so what I kind of look for are like these areas here. So like you'll notice like this 90-degree wall right here. If I push around that, it kind of extends out like that, and it's perfect 90 degrees on both sides. So when I try to do it on these are a little bit difficult. You just kind of got to play around with them and see which ways work the best. But you can see how like I'll be shot out backwards like that. Now these are extremely difficult to do if there's nothing else like to push you downwards. So like with the Ogre Swamp one, at least I had that hut there that would direct me in a position, so my angle could be a little bit off this way or that way. With these, it's more about just feeling it out, keep going back and forth on them until something finally happens. And I won't waste your time on this one. In this area here, you're able to actually proxy clip downwards and be able to stand on the invisible floor right underneath us. But I'll go straight into the next form of clipping here, because you can do the same thing here. And it's usually, once the other two ways of clipping can't be found in the area, we'll resort to proxy clipping. So I'll show you the next one, called sliding blaze. Alright, so here we are at the beginning of the Forgotten Forest glade again. And how I got back there into the forest temple with Ash was using a sliding blaze. So what you're looking for to do this, you kind of need like a rock surface or like a boulder shaped half dome, something that you could walk off of and slide just a little bit. In a later example, I'll show how you can also do it with small drops over at Thorns Pass. But so in this example, I'm going to use this boulder here. So I want to get on top of here and then hover up a little bit and jump so I can switch over to Ash, and you'll see like his icon come up. So the next thing you want to do is just kind of take it one by one. So you just kind of take it a little bit at a time, blazing as you go. And you'll notice that Ash will start going through the ground there. And that gets you into a clipping position. The only thing about these is you have to be in that position long enough for Major's icon to come up, which isn't always guaranteed based on how the angle of the boulder meets the ground there. So we'll try that again and see what happens. Another thing too is I just spam Major Ruin on these points to hopefully just get the transformation done. And there are easier versions of this, but sometimes it's a little finicky. Yeah, that was way too early. So there we go. Now I usually just keep holding the left trigger there, and which will make Major do his hop after you transform into him. But you have to immediately, once you start doing that, rush outwards or rush out of bounds. And in this case, there's an invisible floor all the way across the Forgotten Forest glade that you can walk on. So I'll go to the next version of a sliding blaze, and this one uses the same technique as the boulder here. It just, there's nothing underneath to actually land on. So we'll go look at that real quick. So here we are at another example of what a sliding blaze can be used on. So you can see this slope right here going into this seam. So we can also do it on things like this as well. And I'll try to pull one off here. Although this one doesn't actually have anything that's useful about it, because after clipping you just fall straight down. So we'll try to do it real quick. And again, you just kind of keep nudging forward while blazing, and then you'll sometimes get into a position to where you'll be able to clip through. This one I find a little bit easier if you're aiming towards this wall over here. Yeah, so like this. Now that we're under here, there's really nothing we can land on or touch, so we'll just indefinitely fall. So, and then onwards to the last form of sliding blaze that we can use, and that's over at Thorns Pass. So here we are at the final location. With sliding blazes, I'm not too sure exactly what you need for them to work yet. It's a newer version of clipping that I'm used to. But even with situations as this, where there's a small drop off between two different levels, just like this, you're still able to do these sliding blazes into that. And then let's see if I can. Yeah, so just like that, if you go right off the edge there and do a blaze, it'll put you in a position to where you're in a clipping state, and you can just switch over to Major Ruin and go through. So hopefully this was useful to everyone. And if you have any other questions or comments, just comment on here or go to the Discord. I'm usually on there posting things about new glitches that I'm finding or new ways that I'm going about things. So hopefully this video was useful, and everybody have a good day.